All right, guys, it's time for a confession. I have been self-sabotaging my law firm's growth since day one. My law firm has been up and running for 4 years, and I know deep down that my law firm could be further along than where it is currently. But there's a method to the madness. There is a business strategy that I'm trying to implement, and in this video, I'm gonna share that strategy with you. So I recently came across a quote on Twitter that really hit home for me. It says, if the work doesn't require creativity, then delegate it, automate it, or leave it. So over the years, I've learned in life, typically it's more of the hard lessons than the easy lessons, is that when you're trying to achieve certain things, you need to build a strong foundation. But the foundation comes from reverse engineering what your end goal and desire is. You don't want to build a foundation and then just go with the flow on the rest. For example, let's say somebody's building a house. Well, that's one level of complexity with a foundation. But if somebody's building a skyscraper, then that's a totally different animal. They're gonna have to spend more time and strengthen up that foundation exponentially more than what they would if they were just building a house. The point here is that I'm trying to spend the extra time at this point, year 4 into having a law firm, building the strongest foundation that I can so that as I'm building my law firm after that, I'm not running into issues. Because if I start running into issues, that means that I need to kind of backtrack and build that foundation again, and I don't want to have to backtrack at all. So this takes me to the strategies that I've been implementing thus far, and it's basically a 3-step strategy. Step 1, can a task be automated? I asked myself this question all of the time as I'm doing every aspect of a case. Keep in mind, my law firm is just me. I have no legal assistant, paralegal, associate. There are no employees. It is just me. And I'm having to bite that bullet for now. And I'll explain why in a second. But for perspective here, you also need to keep in mind that my strength that I totally recognize that I'm having to self-sabotage and hold back to some degree is building my referral sources and building my connections in particular with chiropractors. And when I build my connections with chiropractors, that allows more referral sources to come in. If I have a new chiropractor, for example, that uses me exclusively, and that's a massive deal because all of their personal injury cases start flowing to me, and then I turn those patients into clients and then turn those clients into walking billboards. So at that point, I continue having the patients flow to me and I convert those patients into those walking billboards and tap into those walking billboards' entire network. So if each person that I'm representing has a network of 100 people, then my brand awareness is increasing 100-fold after each person that comes in. I think that made sense and I hope it did. If it didn't, let me know down in the comment section below. But I haven't actually tried to actively connect and grow with new chiropractors in at least 2 to 3 years. What I realized was that the passive growth and connections that I was developing with chiropractors and the ones that I early on actively developed has been more than enough on my workload for the day-to-day job. And it's gotten to the point where I'm risking burning out because of the number of cases that have been coming in from not only the chiropractors referring cases to me, but from the patients turning into walking billboards and those referral sources starting to come in more so than they have ever come in before because I'm 4 years into this. And so I know that if I were to spend more time building those connections, I'd have more clients coming in from my law firm and I'd be able to help more people. But as a one size fits all, I do everything and jack of all trades type of person right now, I can't do that. I can't spend the time to grow my law firm in order to start bringing in more cases because I'm doing everything. So that's why I'm asking myself with this step 1, can a task be automated? And the only way I'm going to be able to answer that question is doing it myself. and figuring out which tasks are going to be redundant and just ripe for having a computer or a script handling it. And this is where I think some law firms, they build their foundation, but they don't build it strong enough for the future. Because if I were to, 4 years ago, have gone solo and immediately hired a legal assistant, I don't think that legal assistant would voluntarily tell me aspects of his or her job that could be automated. I don't see a lot of employees saying, you know what? Yeah, some of this I don't actually have to do. Some of my jobs and duties can be done by a computer, and so maybe pay me less. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So the only way I'm going to be able to recognize these moments and these parts of my business is handling it myself. The best example I can think of is the intake process that I have. I realized at some point during the intake process, after I signed up potential clients, I was doing the same process of getting the folder set up and the information taken from the intake form onto a case binder so I could have everything where I wanted it to be. It was just over and over and over again. And I was spending way too much time doing something that was as easy at certain points as copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And then the question is, okay, do I really want to hire a person to do this, let's say, copy, paste, copy, paste? The answer is no. Instead, I want to automate it. I want to figure out a way in order to have a computer or a script do this for free. And that's why, as those have seen my other video that I'll slide a link above, I have a Google script that automates part of my intake process in order for my case binder to auto-populate with what's going on in the intake form for me to be able to save so much time. That means, and this is probably the most important part, is that when it is time for me to hire someone, I can specifically tell them the scope of work that I want them to do. If I have my law firm as a well-oiled, automated machine, then that means everything that's automated, I don't need you to do as an employee. Instead, we're gonna focus on this more narrow scope here, and we're gonna get good at it. We're gonna get really good at it, and you're gonna knock this out of the park. And that way, they're not spread, 10 miles wide and an inch deep, but we can narrow it and we can allow the employee to become more highly specialized in what I need them to be specialized in. The tricky part, and this is kind of the X factor that I wasn't anticipating, is all of this AI development is really making me pause my timeline on hiring an employee to help shoulder some of the load. Whenever I was originally putting scripts in place with Google, the thought process was, okay, well, this is maybe the full extent of the automation, maybe some more tweaks here and there, but overall, the automation's in place, the templates are in place, so maybe I'm closer than I think when it comes to but hiring an employee. But then AI comes in and ChatGPT and Google's Bard is like, you know what? We could do a little bit more than what these scripts are doing, and we can help you with the scripts. And then so that means I need to spend extra time to research, okay, maybe something can be automated, but how can it be automated? How do I make it automated in a way that I need it to be automated? And so that means that I have to spend more time focusing now on this foundation so that later on, I don't have to worry about it if I'm busier. Later on, I can start focusing on building those new connections and referral sources through chiropractors and things like that. So this is the step one. Everything I'm doing on the day-to-day basis, handling every aspect of a case from the beginning of sign up to getting someone paid, I'm asking myself, can a task be automated? Step two, is there a system in place? This one is so important. So important, in fact, I'm gonna look directly at this camera. This one, guys, is so incredibly important. So not only whenever I'm handling every aspect of a case am I asking myself, okay, can this task be automated? I'm also trying to figure out if there's a teaching moment with each task or each part of the case, something that can be replicated, something that can be almost formulaic to where it allows a framework for there to ultimately be success with that particular case or with the overall law firm. You see, I could hire an associate lawyer and just throw them in the deep end and ask them to swim. Why would I do that though? I would at least want to give them some floaties in order to help them out. You see, and let's keep with the intake theme here. Whenever I first started as an associate lawyer, handling intake phone calls, I said this in another video, I'm pretty sure I was losing the law firm money because I wasn't very good with those intake phone calls. It took so much trial and error for me to be able to perfect the script that I currently use that filters out bad cases, filters out bad clients, and allows me to build a connection and credibility with potential new clients where I sign up like 99% of the people that I'm talking to these days. Why would I hire an associate lawyer and not give them this script? Why would I not give them the formula to success and just say, yeah, go ahead and figure it out? And then I'm paying their salary for them to go figure it out. And meanwhile, I'm missing out on clients that I would hopefully want to sign up in that situation. I don't want to do that. So what I'm doing now at this point is figuring out certain aspects of the case, like the intake script, that is a formula for success. And currently I'm spending most of my time figuring out litigation strategies that I'm testing out for the first time on a few cases to ultimately round out this formula and system that I'm trying to put in place. You see, this is something that I also really recommend and something that I'm trying to spend extra time on, is having scalable formulas that I can teach to employees that I ultimately plan on hiring. And what I mean by scalable is basically the PI playbook. If you don't know, the personal injury playbook is going to be linked above, linked down below so you can learn more about it. But it's basically my online course over on lawventure.com that walks lawyers through on how to build a successful personal injury practice on a shoestring budget. You can see more info about it again, sliding above, down below. But there's another reason why I created the PI playbook. Not only is it to help lawyers succeed with their PI practice, but it's also to take those lessons and send them over to employees so that they can learn what I want them to learn. And that allows me to be able to do whatever I want to do, spend time being creative, spend time connecting with chiros and growing the business or litigating a case that's a little bit more complicated and beyond the skill set of an associate. And that also allows me to do it at scale. It's not one-on-one time that I'm having to stop everything I'm doing in order to teach someone what I want them to do. By having it on video is trainable material to where if there's turnover for whatever reason, or if I'm bringing in more and more employees, I just show them the same objective video so they're all being trained on the same exact thing. So all that to say, the PI playbook, which is my baby and it's taken a long time to complete, but we eventually got there, even though I'm rolling out some updates here and there, has dual purposes of not only teaching my lawyers here on Law Venture, but teaching future employees as well. And that just takes time. Putting a system like that in place for the scalability factor is very time intensive, but it's something that I feel like is going to pay off and something that I don't see a lot of other lawyers and law firms doing. And then I hear these lawyers with employees that are like, man, life was so much easier when I was solo because my employees, they don't know what to do and I keep trying to teach them, but then I have turnover and they have all these issues and headaches. So my hope is, and maybe I'm being naive here, my hope is this training material will help make things a little bit easier. So I'm trying to put that in place, but again, that takes time that I could be spending growing my law firm. So I'm having to bite the bullet now to hopefully reap the benefits later. Step 3, delegate ASAP. Look, there's definitely something to be said about analysis paralysis. I can spend the rest of my career trying to build the perfect foundation, but at some point the rubber needs to meet the road and I need to start hiring people. I totally recognize that. In fact, right now, I'm really flirting with burnout because my caseload keeps going up. The word of mouth referrals keep coming in. It's a great problem to have, but at the same time, There's only limited amount of energy I can spend on the day job, on the day-to-day aspects of every aspect of the case. And so the goal is to get the automations in place as quickly as I can, and also build a framework as quickly as I can to start delegating as much as I can, so I can then start doing what I want to do in order to grow my law firm and focus on what I want to focus on in order to play more to my strengths. Because when you do everything, you're going to have to do things that are your weaknesses that you could potentially hire an employee to where your weakness is their strength, and then you can make your law firm and just company overall even better on top of that. When I interviewed Mark Lanier, I think he said it best. Like, when you're a solo, you're juggling chainsaws, and it's just a matter of time until you get cut. And that's time to where, yeah, the more I'm juggling those chainsaws, the more I'm at risk of getting cut. And so it's all about getting out of the awkward teenage years as quickly as possible. Let's bring things full circle by looking at our quote. If the work doesn't require creativity, then delegate it, automate it, or leave it. This is important because this shows us the end goal that we can reverse engineer accordingly in order to build the foundation we need to build. If we're in the early stages, you may be watching this and thinking, Jared, I've had my law firm for 10 plus years and we have systems in place, but I feel like it could be more optimized. Well, maybe this is the wake-up call that you need in order to pause what you're doing and ultimately give your foundation a little bit of a refresh, give it a touch up, strengthen it up, especially with AI coming into its own, especially with technology changing. Maybe there are now aspects that you can automate and not really have to worry about in the future. And maybe that can allow you to trim up your law firm and your overall expenses to become a more well-operated and well-oiled machine. There are a lot of things going on here and a lot of things to think about, but in my situation, it's all about timing and putting in the energy and ultimately trying to be critical of my law firm to a healthy extent. Now, that's all I have for this one. This is more of a rant, ramble. Here are my thoughts and philosophies. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, or if you just want to say hi, you know the drill at this point. Leave that down in the comment section below. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next video.